at 5, your money and the rising cost of prescription drugs. This year, Americans saw the largest increase in more than a decade.
Yeah, it's left a lot of people pointing at large pharmaceutical companies saying they're taking advantage of their customers. Fox 61's Jen Bernstein is here with what's being done about it. Jen.
Brent, Audrey, there was a roundtable today that brought state, federal, and hospital leaders all together to give observations on why pharmaceutical costs are rising and what can be done about it. Former CEO Martin Shkreli grabbed headlines this year and the label of most hated man in America after he bought rights to the drug Daraprim and spiked the price from $13 to $750 a pill. The drug is used to help ward off and treat infections that can rise from the HIV virus. Shkreli saying the reason for the massive price increase was for research and development. To many, it drew attention to an extreme form of greed that's not so uncommon.
Pharmaceutical drug costs are rising astronomically.
Today at Hartford Hospital, a panel gathered to address what can and should be done to combat spiraling drug costs. Americans spent $300 billion on prescription drugs in 2014. That's a 12% increase from the previous year, higher than the rate of inflation. And it's hitting pocketbooks across the country, a family spending an average cost of $570 a year on prescription drugs.
There's been a disconnect between the value of new medications and the cost of new medications.
Doctors with Hartford Hospital are concerned about the trend. The director of pharmacy even giving examples of the price differences they're seeing.
There are drugs that are generic injectables that have gone up 300, 400, and 500%.
State Comptroller Kevin Lembo buys health care for about 200,000 people, state employees, retirees, and their families. Over the last few years, he's seen the pharmaceutical part of their plan skyrocket to a point he says that's irrational and unsustainable.
Overall, we're seeing about a 17% growth on our pharmacy side.
Lembo says the state's hands are for the most part tied and points to federal action. Senator Richard Blumenthal agrees and says the ballooning costs are because of lax enforcement and, quote, unvarnished greed.
Many of the companies are so big and have monopolies and have misused their monopolistic power.
Blumenthal said this can be fought with stronger enforcement of our antitrust laws. He also wants greater disclosure from companies saying there is a lack of transparency about the rising costs, just like Shkreli saying it was for research and development. Blumenthal plans on presenting more legislation about the rising cost of pharmaceutical drugs in Washington this session. Jen Bernstein, Fox 61 News.